tomorrow night we have night one of Fyter Fest live on TNT. AEW presenting the second annual Fyter Fest. It's going to be spread across 2 nights, live and free on TNT though this year. Night 1 coming on July 1st and night 2 coming on July 8th. All championships in AEW will be on the line across 2 nights, and on night 1 on July 1st we will have 3 AEW championship matches on the card. So the match we're going to talk about quite in depth here is the AEW TNT Championship match between Cody, the TNT champion, with his coach Arn Anderson in his corner against Jake Hager. Probably going to be the main event on that show, I would speculate, but I could be wrong there. Could be the World Tag Team Championship match between Kenny Omega and Hangman Page against Best Friends. However, with the main events that Cody's been having on AEW TV recently, I would speculate that it's highly likely that Cody will be the main event here. In terms of just straight out of the way, a prediction for this match, I think it's very obvious that Cody is going to retain here. Obviously, he just won the TNT Championship at Double or Nothing, defeating Lance Archer in a good match on that show. I would have preferred Lance Archer to win it there, but of course, Cody is the guy. He's the top babyface, regardless of what people say about, John Moxley, etc. Cody Rhodes is the top babyface in AEW. He is AEW. He's the face of that company on the corporate side and on the entertainment side of things. I know obviously Tony Khan is the president and he speaks a lot on social media and on media calls, etc., etc. But I think the real face of the company, the one that people associate the most with the company from a babyface point of view, is Cody Rhodes. He is Mr. AEW, isn't he? So I have no doubts he'll be the main event. He's been the main event when it comes to Jungle Boy and Mark Quinn recently, defending the TNT Championship on AEW Dynamite. Those matches have been fine. They've been fun. What's the likelihood we get a Cody Rhodes blade job here as well, by the way? It feels like every big match at this point, Cody Rhodes gets a bit of colour. I hope he doesn't, to be honest, and I'm a big fan of getting colour for matches. I think it certainly does add something to the match. It certainly does add something to the storyline. It certainly does add something to the importance of the match. It just makes a match feel more important, more brutal. Just if done right, it can certainly take a match from, I don't know, a 7 to an 8 or a 9. Yeah, that's just my opinion, of course, but that's when done correctly and when it's done infrequently. Cody Rhodes has been doing it way too often recently. His match with Jungle Boy, the first defense of the TNT Championship on AEW Dynamite, really didn't need to have color in that match. It just felt very forced and very silly. I didn't like the ending of that match of Jungle Boy's just lost to Cody for the TNT Championship, his first opportunity at a championship in TNT. And they're hugging and shaking hands and celebrating after the match. If you're Jungle Boy, you want to be annoyed. You want to be annoyed that you didn't get the job done. I think about a UFC fight. Yes, they'll shake hands after the fight, but you got to show that you're annoyed. You can't be happy with the performance. You know what I mean? You've got to show that grit and determination to try and win, especially if you're a young superstar. And I don't think that came across in that moment. And then obviously we have the pyro after that, which was way too over the top. I mean, way too over the top. Cody Rhodes' pyro, when it comes out anyway, is way over the top and can sometimes be a little bit like a bit of an eye roll. It's like, okay, we get it. He's the guy. I'm a big fan of Cody Rhodes, but okay, we get it. He doesn't have to have the fire, the fireworks, the sparklers. It's like everything merged into one, isn't it? It's like Goldberg, Edge, and The Undertaker all came out at the same time. You got fire, smoke, sparklers, pyro. It's insane. But in terms of having Jake Hager, I think this is important to talk about. Jake Hager as the challenger for the TNT Championship here. Again, you have to bring it up in the fact that this is a WWE match. These are 2 WWE guys. I know I've just called Cody Mr. AEW, which he is, but these are 2 guys that made their names in WWE. Cody, of course, Cody Rhodes, and Jake Hager is Jack Swagger. And it's something that I've been highly critical of AEW recently, in that these big main events on these big shows traditionally so far have been former WWE guys facing off. You go back to Double or Nothing. John Moxley versus Brody Lee is Dean Ambrose versus Luke Harper. You go back to the match at Revolution earlier this year, Chris Jericho versus John Moxley, which is Dean Ambrose. You have matches that Chris Jericho had for his AEW World Championship. He went against a few WWE guys. Obviously went against Cody Rhodes. Again, it's probably a WWE match. And I've mentioned that AEW is walking a fine line with this, and it is a very difficult line to walk. I do appreciate that, and that in the modern professional wrestling world, how many people haven't been with WWE at one point or other? That's very true, but it doesn't make them all WWE guys. And look, it's a mistake that TNA and WCW fell into in the past. WWE guys are a natural draw because they've been on a wide television and people know who they are. That's absolutely true. So it does make sense to put them in prominent positions to draw a rating, but when you do it on every show, you've got to remember these are guys that have left WWE, and these are guys that are no longer associated with WWE. They may have been released, their runs towards the end might not have been completely spectacular, and sometimes that leaves a bit of a bad taste in the fans' mouth, or the casual fans' mouth. So when they see, a Cody Rhodes versus Jake Hager main event in night one of Fyter Fest, you start to think, oh, is this WWE Light? Does this feel like WWE Light? And I know that might annoy a few people there and say, well, that's not really a fair criticism. Cody versus Jake Hager is completely different to Cody Rhodes or Stardust versus Jack Swagger in WWE. And that is true, but you've got to understand sometimes how the casual fan, not the diehard fan like you or I, may think when viewing this program or when viewing this match. So I think that's very important to talk about. I would have rather had the first TNT Championship defense on a major, it's not a pay-per-view, but on a major event, have been someone that wasn't so closely associated with WWE. We've had the likes of Jungle Boy and Mark Quinn and Ricky Starks challenged Cody Rhodes on AEW TV recently, and that's been great because it showcased stars that haven't been associated with WWE. It showcased stars that can be big future stars for AEW originals, if you will, even though Ricky Starks, of course, did make his name a little bit in the NWA. I'd have rather had the first TNT Championship defense on a major event not be a former WWE guy. Maybe that's me nitpicking a little bit, who knows. In terms of his matches, Jake Hager, I feel they've been quite unspectacular so far in AEW. Maybe that's a harsh criticism, but he just doesn't do anything for me personally. Now, I like the way that they've presented him as a proper badass MMA style fighter, because of course that's what he is. He is undefeated in Bellator. His last match was last fight was a DQ from a low blow, actually inside the cage, and obviously they played that up on TV quite a lot with Hager hitting a lot of low blows. But in terms of that presentation, I don't think they've been trying to make him, some people have said they're trying to make him Brock Lesnar. They're not trying to make him Brock Lesnar just because he's switched it up, the character, and become a bit of an MMA style wrestler, which of course is his background. He is a wrestler. He's a All-American, NCAA All-American. He is a fighter at the moment with Bellator and MMA, so it is a character that's more closely associated to him. But I just think his matches so far in AEW have been very unspectacular. He had the match against Dustin Rhodes at Revolution earlier this year, which was, I believe it was the opener for the show, and didn't really set the world alight. It was a fine match, but it was nothing spectacular. I thought the feud he had with Jon Moxley felt very strange, and obviously the backdrop to that didn't help things. This is right when we were starting the empty arena shows, the pandemic. They had the empty arena fight at Daily's Place, which again just felt, it was okay, it was physical, and I appreciate what they were trying to do there. Jon Moxley, of course, is in the what movie is it? It's not Street Fighter, Cage Fighter movie. And he's obviously trying to incorporate that more into his repertoire when it comes to working in the ring. And obviously Jake Hager, being in the MMA world, being a fighter for Bellator, they tried to do something a little bit different. It was physical, it was hard-hitting. I appreciate a physical and hard-hitting match. I think it's probably the best match Jake Hager's had in AEW. But again, it just didn't do it for me. I found it very slow, too methodical, if that's possible, and just didn't have any pace, no atmosphere, and just didn't feel exciting. And the end kind of, once Moxley did get the win, it was very much like, okay, thanks. And Jake Hager going into that never really felt like he should be Jon Moxley's first feud for the AEW World Championship. I've always said that when a champion wins the championship for the first time, that first feud post winning the championship is very important to set the tone for the championship reign as a whole. Now, obviously, it's going to be a feud that the champion wins, but it's got to be good. I think of when Roman Reigns won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 32, and his first feud was against AJ Styles. He came out of that winning the feud, but the matches were great, and Roman Reigns felt felt like a big champion. Unfortunately, he then got suspended after that, so it never really came to fruition there. But that's my point there, and it never felt like that with Jon Moxley and Jake Hager there. It just didn't feel like Jake Hager should really be in that spot. And again, maybe that's too harsh of me. I don't know. It wasn't for my taste. And the same goes again here for Jake Hager against Cody. I feel like the AEW are trying to push him as this legitimate badass, which he is. I have no doubt that Jake Hager could absolutely kill me if we came face to face. And would I say these things to his face? Maybe not, because he would just like a sleeper on me and I would go straight to sleep. I wouldn't even get the chance to probably say these things to Jake Hager. But I just don't feel like he's the right guy to be possibly main eventing night one of this major event for the TNT Championship. I just feel like there could be other people that might be better off in that position. Of course, Cody will face other people going forward, but again, Jake Hager just doesn't do it for me. I don't know if that's because of the tainted WWE run. I don't know if that's because of his personality or because of his matches, because of his gimmick. I'm not sure. It just doesn't feel there for me, and that might be wrong of me, but it just doesn't feel there for me. What I will say is I did really enjoy the press conference that they had last week on Dynamite. Now, to hype up the TNT Championship match at Fyter Fest, they had a sort of a UFC, I mentioned MMA, they had a UFC style press conference to hype this up. Now, usually I roll my eyes a little bit when it comes to contract signings, press conferences, etc., because they're just so overdone in professional wrestling. They're just so overdone and just not really worth watching. You know what's going to happen. They always end up in a brawl, and it's just a bit. It's very pantomime, isn't it? It's just very hokey and pantomime. But I thought this press conference was actually really, really well done by AEW last week. They had the classic, almost Conor McGregor tactic by Jake Hager. They started the press conference with Jake Hager not even there. He turns up late, which is, if you're a fan of UFC or MMA, that's a classic Conor McGregor move. He's never on time when it comes to press conferences, so that was a nice reference there. You had Cody cut a nice promo. You had Arn Anderson cut a great promo. Every time they've had Arn Anderson cut a promo on Dynamite so far, or in AEW so far, it's been great. They make really good use of the coaches or legends or whatever they want to call them. Some of the promos they've had them cut so far have been great. I think every coach so far has had their own moment in cutting a great promo. Arn Anderson had it here. Jake Roberts, I've got Jake on the brain. Jake Roberts has cut some fantastic promos building up to the Cody versus Lance Archer match at Double or Nothing. And then Tully Blanchard with Shawn Spears. Regardless of your thoughts on Shawn Spears and the whole black glove gimmick, Tully Blanchard recently cut a phenomenal promo. It was on AEW social media platforms, and they showed it a snippet of it on Dynamite recently. If you haven't seen that, go and watch it. It's a great promo by Tully Blanchard. So my point being there that all the coaches and legends that they've used so far in AEW, they've used really, really well. So Arn Anderson cut a great promo as well in this press conference. And then eventually Jake Hager does show up with his wife, who we've seen a little bit of in AEW previously. We saw her at AEW Revolution during the match with Dustin Rhodes. I don't think we've seen her as much on AEW TV after this, because you got to think pretty much straight after Revolution, it was only a couple of weeks before we started to have the empty arena shows and the pandemic era of professional wrestling truly hit. So she was away from AEW TV for a while, but when she did sort of make a debut at AEW Revolution, I was quite excited actually, because I think the pairing of them is quite exciting. I think she comes across as such a natural heel and such a hateable heel, and really adds quite a lot to Jake Hager's character, and really adds a lot to that don't care less MMA gimmick that Hager is doing. So I think them as a duo and her as an addition to Hager's character is quite intriguing, so that helps. And they showed up late. Hager and his wife showed up late to the press conference. They just say, okay, right, let's get it on. They do the sort of photography style pose down that they do in UFC, where Cody Rhodes and Hager come face to face, and then they do the pose to the cameras. Hager puts his fist into the face of Cody Rhodes as they're doing the photo. Cody Rhodes slaps it out. They have a little bit of a pull apart. No physicality, which I like to see, because physicality shouldn't happen at those things. Save that for the ring. But then Jake Hager's wife gets a glass of water and throws it into the face of Cody, and they walk off laughing. So it adds a little bit of heat to the match, makes you a little bit more interested in the match. I'm certainly more interested in the match after watching that press conference. I'm still not really interested in the match that much, to be honest, because of Hager's involvement, and I just think they could have they could have picked a better opponent, I think, and I don't know. I'm just not as hyped as maybe say for the Kenny Omega Hangman Page match against Best Friends. I think that'll be a better match, and I'm just the tag team division. I'm just really excited about in AEW. I think it's fantastic. But the press conference did help for hyping up this match slightly, I will say. So I think Hager obviously will have his wife at ringside, and she most likely will get involved in the match. I was surprised when it came to the press conference that so Jake Hager's wife, she throws the water in Cody Rhodes' face. Cody Rhodes isn't going to attack a woman, of course, so he just sort of stands there and looks pretty peed off. But Cody Rhodes does have his wife Brandy there. She is there with him and his brother Dustin at the press conference, and his coach Arn Anderson, and she just stands there and looks befuddled, bemused. I'm thinking, Brandy, come on, defend your man here. Why don't you run over and attack Jake Hager's wife? The reason as to why they haven't done that, I think, is probably because they're saving it, to be honest, for Fyter Fest itself. I think obviously they're saving that physicality between Hager's wife and Brandy Rhodes for Fyter Fest. I think it's likely that we will see that at Fyter Fest. There'll certainly be a spot where the way I would book it and the way I think it could happen is we have Hager's wife get involved 2 or 3 times, tripping Cody Rhodes up, distracting the referee, maybe passing a foreign object into the ring. Brandy Rhodes says, "I've had enough," and then we have the pull-apart brawl at the ring. And then maybe we have something else later on down the line on AEW television. Perhaps we even have a match between them both. I'm not sure how, if Jake Hager's wife can work. I'm not sure if that's a thing, or who knows? They could definitely do something, maybe a mixed tag. There's certainly a few ways they could go with that one. In terms of, like I said, the prediction, I think Cody retains here. I'd be stunned. I'd be absolutely stunned if Jake Hager got the win out of this one. Hopefully that's the feud done. Like I said, maybe they have a rematch on Dynamite where it's a mixed tag. But given that Cody Rhodes has committed to defending the TNT Championship every week on Dynamite, I'm not sure we have time for a Jake Hager-Cody Rhodes rematch. Once it's done, and Cody Rhodes can move on to other talent that maybe haven't been tainted with the WWE brush. I'd really like to see him go up against the likes of Rey Fenix or Pentagon Jr. The match that Cody Rhodes had with Mark Quinn was actually scheduled to be Rey Fenix, but of course Rey Fenix at the time was injured. He got injured prior to Double or Nothing. He is, of course, back with his brother now. They'll be competing on night 2 of Fyter Fest, which I'm looking forward to. But I'd really like to see, them two have a match against Cody Rhodes. Or there's a list of other names that I'd really like to see have Cody Rhodes face for the TNT Championship. Some people are saying Zack Ryder, Rusev. Again, let's not walk too close to that WWE line there. There's certainly some guys in AEW that I think could be possibly a better fit. Kip Sabian comes to mind. There's a million others. I could rattle them off. But this has already been a long video. So, of course, this is just one man's opinion. What is your opinion on Cody versus Jake Hager at Fyter Fest? Who do you think is going to come out the winner here? Do you think Cody Rhodes is going to retain? Or do you think we're going to have a new TNT champion in Jake Hager? Do you think it's a one-and-done feud? Are you happy with Jake Hager being involved in this match? Or would you rather have someone else face Cody Rhodes for the TNT championship? Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts and your predictions for tomorrow's match. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be another subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms right now. That's at WrestleNews365 on Facebook and Instagram, and at 365Wrestle on Twitter. And be sure to go to WrestleNews365.com for all the very latest news, opinions, all of that good stuff. Go to WrestleNews365.com and give us a visit. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you've come across this video today, and I'll speak with you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.